Es una auténtica locura, de verdad. Sí. Si me hubieras dicho hace unos años que a los 18 años estaría aquí parado levantando la Copa del Mundo después de jugar contra Leo Messi en una final, te habría dicho que estabas loco.
19 years ago, a photographer at a Barcelona charity event asked a young player to hold a baby for a few seconds just to favor a quick photo. Nobody thought twice about it. The player put the baby back in its mother's arms. The event moved on, and the picture sat forgotten. For almost 2 decades, nobody in that room could have known they were looking at the end of his career, because on July 19th, 2026, that baby walked out at MetLife Stadium and started a World Cup final against him. Extra time scoreboard reading 0-0-0 for over 100 minutes, and then in the dying minutes, one moment decided everything. One team exploded, the other collapsed onto the grass. And when the whistle finally blew, the man who should have been world champion twice over was sitting on the pitch alone in tears, while 19 years and one photograph away, the teenager who had just beaten him stopped his own celebration cold. He turned, he walked straight through the chaos past his own teammates, lifting the trophy behind him, and went to find the one man in the stadium he came there to beat. What happened in the next moments is why football people are already calling this the most symbolic scene the sport has produced in years, and almost nobody watching live understood the full weight of it until the replay started circulating hours later. This is that story. Before we get into it, if you watch this final live, tell us in the comments the exact moment you realized what was happening, and if you followed Lionel Messi's whole career. Hit subscribe, because what we are about to break down is bigger than one hug. Let's start with what is actually confirmed. Spain beat Argentina 1-0 after extra time in the 2026 World Cup final. It was Lionel Messi's second World Cup final defeat after Argentina 2014 lost to Germany. This time a man who beat him was on the opposite bench, 19-year-old Lamine Yamal. And here's the detail that turned this into more than just a result. Lionel Messi and Lamine Yamal became the first players to start on opposite sides of a World Cup final with a 20-year age gap between them, not close to it, not roughly a generation, an actual verified first in history. 20-year gap. That's not commentary. That's a historical fact. Fans online picked up on it immediately, as one widely shared reaction put it. Watching the two of them share that moment felt like a legend and a future legend sharing a nice moment. Another comment that spread just as fast summed up the poetry of it. Someone being consoled by the very kid he inspired is its own kind of full circle story, and this final itself carried its own historical weight before a ball was even kicked. This was the first ever World Cup final between the reigning champions of Europe and the reigning champions of South America. Spain European Championship title against Argentina. Copa America crown settled on the biggest stage the sport has. Argentina, for their part, were chasing something almost nobody has done in the modern game, back-to-back World Cup titles, a feat only achieved by Italy in 1934 and 1938 and Brazil in 1958 and 1962. This wasn't just Lionel Messi's story or Lamine Yamal's story. It was two footballing institutions colliding with two generational talents standing at the center of it. Now, here is the part that made the loss sting even more. This wasn't Lionel Messi getting outclassed. This was arguably the best World Cup of his entire career. Statistically, go through the road to the final, and it reads like a highlight reel that shouldn't belong to a 39-year-old. In the group stage, Lionel Messi scored a hat trick on his 200th international appearance, equaling a long-standing record for World Cup goals in the round of 32 against Cape Verde. Argentina were dragged to extra time by a debutant nation before finally escaping 3-2 in the round of 16. Argentina fell behind Egypt 1-0. And it was Lionel Messi who assisted the first comeback goal before scoring the equalizer himself 4 minutes later in the semifinal against England. Argentina trailed with time running out before two late goals completed the comeback, both created by Lionel Messi. Assists by kickoff of the final. Lionel Messi had 8 goals and 4 assists for the tournament, and he was tied for the most goals of any player in the entire competition. This wasn't a farewell tour. This was a 39-year-old man playing some of the best football of his life, dragging his country through 3 separate comebacks just to reach the final, and it still wasn't enough. 1 goal in extra time was the difference. Sport rarely writes stories with clean, satisfying endings. This was proof of that. Now flip to Lamine Yamal's side of this. He was born in July 2007. Lionel Messi left Barcelona in 2021. Lamine Yamal didn't make his first team debut until 2023, which means this 19-year-old grew up idolizing a player he never once shared a locker room with, never trained alongside, never got to learn from directly everything he knew about Lionel Messi. He knew the way millions of other kids his age did, from screens, from highlight reels, from stories. And just days before the final, Lionel Messi was asked directly about him. He didn't dodge the question or give a generic answer. He said plainly that Lamine Yamal is a fantastic player, and that Head followed him closely because of his connection to Barcelona, the club. He said Head always wish the best for. Think about what that means from Lamine Yamal's side. The guy whose posters were probably on his wall as a kid basically told the world media on the record that he rates him. That's not something every 19-year-old gets to hear from his childhood hero before facing him in the biggest game of both their lives. And it's worth remembering how fast Lamine Yamal's own rise has been. He wasn't some unknown kid who suddenly appeared at this World Cup 2 summers before this final at Euro 2024. Then 16-year-old Lamine Yamal was already making history, becoming the youngest player ever to score at a men's European Championship, and doing it against a backdrop of doubters who openly questioned whether the stage was too big for him. He answered those doubts on the pitch, then the same way he answered them again here at 19 in a World Cup final against the very player Head grown up